All right, diving right in today, we're looking at those classroom management phrases, the ones you can use like right away with English language learners. And I guess it's kind of funny that we're getting these tips from a podcast episode itself.
Yeah, a little meta, right? But this English for Educators episode, I mean, wow. The hosts, Emma and David, had some really useful tips.
Oh, for sure. And they just start right at the beginning, like with setting the rules. I thought it was interesting. They said to try phrases like, in this classroom, we respect each other. It's simple, but sometimes that's the best way, right?
Totally. I mean, that phrase really covers a lot. It's like, boom, here are the expectations for behavior, you know? And it shows how important it is to have like a respectful place to learn. I mean, when students feel safe, that's when they really start participating.
For sure. And it's not just about respect between students, is it? It's like setting the tone for how students and the teacher interact, too.
Oh, absolutely. It shows that the teacher also wants to be respectful. That can really help build trust.
Makes sense. Okay, so then they talk about giving really clear instructions. Emma and David even gave an example of how to rephrase something vague, like, do this exercise.
Right. Instead of just leaving it like that, they said to be way more specific, like work in pairs to complete this exercise and write your answers in your notebooks. It's like you take away any confusion, especially for those students who are still learning English and might not know all the words.
It's almost like you're stopping those confused faces before they even happen. I can see how that would help so much to keep everyone, on the same page.
Oh, and it can save you so much time later. If the instructions are super clear from the beginning, you get fewer interruptions. People needing help to understand.
Okay, this is an area I know a lot of teachers have trouble with, encouraging participation, especially, when you have English language learners. How do Emma and David say we can get those quiet students to speak up more?
Well, they talked about creating a space where students feel okay taking risks, like a supportive environment. So use phrases like, who would like to answer this question? But honestly, what I thought was really smart was, after a student answers, to follow up with, that's a great idea. Does anyone have a different opinion?
I see how that could be effective. It's making them think critically and disagree respectfully, which is, important for all learners, but especially for students who are still learning how to speak English really well.
It also kind of changes things up a bit. Instead of just trying to get the one right answer,
Yeah.
they're saying it's okay to see things differently.
Yeah, I get that. And it helps them build confidence to express themselves, even if their English isn't perfect yet.
Exactly. Saying, hey, it's okay to make mistakes. It's all part of learning.
Okay, so now, what about when things go wrong? Because it happens to all of us, right? What do Emma and David say about handling disruptions? Every teacher has to deal with that.
Oh, they said the main thing is to stay calm and be assertive. Like,
Right.
don't get all flustered or start yelling. Instead, just use simple phrases like, let's stay focused on the lesson, or please wait your turn to speak.
Right, so you're redirecting them, but without making a big deal out of it.
Exactly. And using a calm voice often helps to de-escalate things way better than, getting into an argument.
And it's like you're showing them how to be respectful, even when things are a little crazy.
Oh, for sure. Now, we've talked about what to do when things go wrong, but we also need to remember to praise good behavior, right? Emma and David said to use phrases like, great job, everyone, or I love how you're all working together. Simple things like that.
Yeah, it sounds so obvious, but sometimes I forget how important it is to just say thank you or well done. Do you really think little comments like that can make a difference?
They totally can.
Hmm.
Positive reinforcement is so motivating, especially for younger students. When they feel appreciated, they want to keep doing the right thing.
So you're not just catching them being good, you're actually encouraging more of that behavior. It makes
Yeah.
sense. So what about transitions? Switching between activities. That can be a little crazy sometimes, like herding cats.
Oh, tell me about it. And that's why it's super important to be clear and concise with your language. Like Emma and David said, to try phrases like, let's move on to the next activity, or in 5 minutes, we'll start a new lesson. When you give them those cues, it helps them be prepared and, you avoid that chaos.
Yeah, it's about setting those clear expectations and helping them anticipate those shifts in what they're doing.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about group work for a second. I mean, it's awesome for getting students to collaborate and communicate more. But if you don't manage it carefully, it can also lead to, well, a lot of off-task behavior. So what are Emma and David's thoughts on setting up successful group activities?
They said to be really clear with your expectations right from the beginning. Don't just say, get into groups, Use phrases like work together and share your ideas, or make sure everyone gets a chance to speak. When you emphasize those cooperative behaviors, it helps them work together better.
I like that. It's like you're giving them the words to use to like actually talk to each other and work together in the group.
It is. It gives them the tools to collaborate successfully. Now, here's something that I think is so important, especially when you're teaching students who are learning English, making sure they actually understand what you're teaching. So how do Emma and David say we can check for understanding? They suggest using different techniques, like asking open-ended questions, like, does anyone have any questions? Or can you explain that in your own words? I love that second one. I use it all the time. It really makes them think about what they learned and say it back in a way that shows they get it.
And, it helps you, the teacher, see how they're learning. You can tell if anyone is confused and needs extra help.
Okay, wow. We've covered a lot from the rules to checking if everyone understands. But, one of the biggest challenges is time. How do we keep the lesson moving and on schedule? What did Emma and David say about that?
Well, they said to use really clear phrases that talk about time so everyone knows the schedule. Like, we have 10 minutes left for this activity, or let's wrap up our discussion now.
Right. It's like when your phone reminds you about a meeting. You stay on track, but it doesn't feel like someone's, bossing you around.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, it helps students learn how to manage their own time, which is a super useful skill for, well, everything.
Oh, totally. Now, another time when you need to be super clear is when you're talking about homework. Especially, well, like I've been saying, with students who are still learning English. Any good tips from Emma and David on how to make homework instructions really clear?
They were really all about being specific. Instead of just saying, read chapter 3 for homework, they said to try something like, for homework tonight, please read pages 45 to 52 in chapter 3 and be prepared to discuss the main points in class tomorrow.
Wow, they really spelled it out. I can see how that would avoid a lot of confusion.
Right. And it gives those students who are learning English that extra support they might need to feel good about doing the work on their own.
And it connects the homework back to what you did in class, which can help them understand and remember things better.
For sure. So what about when students have questions? How can we encourage them to ask, without feeling scared or embarrassed, especially if they're still working on their English skills?
Oh, that's a great question. I have some students who never ask questions, even when I know they're struggling. It's tough.
Emma and David said it's all about making the classroom a place where questions are good.
Yeah.
Where they're seen as part of learning. So try phrases like, that's a great question, or let's explore this together.
I really like that. It's like we're all learning together, right?
Exactly. And it can help them not be so afraid of being wrong or sounding silly,
Okay, so this is something I find hard, and I bet a lot of teachers do too, keeping students motivated, especially as the semester goes on. Any tips from Emma and David on how to, keep them excited about learning English?
Positive reinforcement is powerful. Even simple phrases like, you're doing amazing work, or keep going, you're improving, can make a huge difference. And it doesn't always have to be about perfect work, right? It's about noticing their effort and the progress they're making, even little steps.
It's like celebrating those small wins, right? And I bet that's extra important for English language learners, because they're always facing new challenges and figuring out the language.
Absolutely. And it's about making the learning process fun, like something they actually enjoy.
Okay, so we can't forget about parents. Communicating with parents is so important. But I think a lot of teachers, especially new ones, might feel a little unsure about talking to parents who don't speak English fluently. What did Emma and David say about that?
They said the most important thing is to communicate clearly and regularly, even if you need to use a translator or an interpreter. So try phrases like, your child is making great progress in developing their English skills, or we're working on improving their reading comprehension. And they said to really focus on working together to solve problems. Use phrases like, let's discuss ways we can support their learning at home.
So it's about building that team feeling between the teacher and the parents, right? Like we're all working together to help the students succeed.
Exactly. And when everyone feels like they're part of the team, it can be really motivating for everyone.
Okay, so we have to talk about technology. It's everywhere in learning now, but it comes with its own challenges. What did Emma and David say about managing technology in the classroom?
Be clear about your expectations and set boundaries from the very beginning. They suggested phrases like, let's use the smartboard for today's lesson, or submit your assignments on Google Classroom. And if you're teaching online, make sure you have clear instructions like, please mute your microphones when you're not speaking. That can make a huge difference in keeping things running smoothly.
That's like those ground rules, but for the digital world, right? Making sure everyone knows how to use technology the right way.
Exactly. Okay, so let's talk about something that every teacher hates: late or missing assignments. It's always a tricky situation, right? How do Emma and David suggest we handle those without, sounding like a broken record?
It's hard. You want to be understanding, but you also need to hold them accountable.
We've said to be compassionate but firm. Like, try phrases like, I notice you haven't submitted your work yet. Is everything okay? Do you need extra time? Or let's chat after class about how you can catch up. That way, students feel supported, but you're still showing them that it's important to be responsible.
It's like finding that balance.
Right.
Being empathetic, but also having expectations.
Right. Okay. So let's switch gears for a minute and talk about something that's so important for good classroom management: building a positive classroom culture. How can we create that feeling of inclusivity and respect and collaboration? What kind of language can we use?
I think it's more than just the phrases themselves. It's about, like, the whole attitude you have in the classroom.
Oh, definitely. But language plays a huge role. Emma and David talked about phrases that promote a growth mindset and a supportive learning environment. Things like, we respect everyone's opinions, or mistakes are part of learning, or let's support each other. When you use this kind of language, it creates a safe space for students to try new things, make mistakes, and learn together.
It's about creating a community where everyone feels valued and respected.
Exactly. Now, no matter how well we plan, there are always those unexpected things that happen in the classroom. Things just come up. How did Emma and David say we should handle those situations?
Ooh, I want to hear this, because those are the moments that can really, test your classroom management skills.
They said the key is to stay calm and be flexible. So use phrases like, let's take a short break and refocus, or I'll address this issue after class. That way you stay in control without getting flustered, and you don't let things get out of hand.
It's like you're showing them how to solve problems and stay calm even when things are tough.
Exactly. And speaking of wrapping things up, how do Emma and David suggest we end our lessons?
I'm always looking for ways to, send my students off feeling good about what they learned.
Well, they said to end with positive reinforcement and a clear sense of closure. Like, try phrases like, great work today, everyone, or let's review what we learned. That way, students feel a sense of accomplishment and are ready for the next lesson.
It's about leaving them feeling motivated and excited to learn more.
Exactly. And that positive energy can really make a difference in how they approach learning in the future.
So we talked earlier about phrases you can use right away. I was thinking it would be good to mention a few that really stuck with me from the podcast. One that I think is so powerful is, don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how we learn.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. It takes the pressure off of students.
Yeah.
They don't have to be perfect. It tells them it's okay to mess up and learn from it.
And I think it's really important for students who are learning English because, they're constantly trying new things and experimenting with the language.
Definitely. Another one I really like is, can you explain that in your own words?
That's such a great phrase. I use it all the time. It's good for checking if they understand, it makes them think harder, and it helps them learn how to explain their thoughts.
And you can use it for so many different things, from simple vocabulary to, talking about complicated themes in literature.
Okay, and the last one, the one that really captures that feeling of working together that I try to create in my classroom is, let's explore this together.
Oh, I love that one. It really shows what a learner-centered classroom is all about. It's like the teacher isn't just lecturing, they're guiding the students on this learning adventure.
It's about that feeling of curiosity and wonder. Learning is something we do together. And I think this is a perfect time to move to our final thought-provoking question. We've been talking about these phrases in the context of teaching English, but I'm wondering, how might cultural differences affect how well these phrases work, in different parts of the world?
Ooh, that's such a good point. It makes you think about how important culturally responsive teaching is. Something that works perfectly in one culture might not work at all, or even be misunderstood in another.
Can you give me an example?
Let's take that phrase, don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how we learn. In some cultures, making mistakes is seen as a really bad thing, and that phrase might not make sense or could even make students feel worse.
So it's not enough to just translate the phrases. You have to understand the culture and adjust them.
Exactly. You have to be sensitive to those cultural differences and change your language and your teaching style to meet your students' needs. In some cultures, looking someone directly in the eye can be disrespectful. But in other cultures, it's a sign that you're paying attention.
Right, that makes sense. And the same could be true for phrases like speak up or share your opinion. In some cultures, it's rude to interrupt or to disagree with your teacher openly.
Exactly. So the big takeaway here is that good classroom management isn't about using the same approach for everyone. It's about knowing where your students come from, being sensitive to their individual needs, and changing your language and strategies to fit them.
It's about being a culturally responsive teacher.
Yes. And that's a journey. We're always learning and growing.
Yeah, it's about like meeting our students where they are, both literally and figuratively.
That's a great way to put it.
Mhm.
And that's what makes teaching so amazing and so tough. It's always about learning and changing and building those connections and helping people grow.
I love that. Well, I think you're walking away from this deep dive with a whole bunch of phrases you can use and hopefully a better understanding of why classroom management is so important.
And I hope you're feeling inspired and ready to create a really great learning environment for your students.
Exactly. And remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about making progress. Every day is a chance to learn and grow for us and for our students.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And hey, don't forget, mistakes are part of learning.
So true. Keep trying new things. Keep learning. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into classroom management. It's been fun.
It really has. Happy teaching.
And happy learning to everyone out there. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.